Well, thank you guys for coming, guys. And as you know, this is Thalo Halo.
Hey, what's up?
And his paintings use a collage cartoon style to commemorate both pop culture and psychological influences during milestones of his life. And I think that we should just start off talking about like your background and journey. And so the first question I have is, you mentioned that graffiti on walls and train cars were your first encounters with art. Could you talk more about how those early visual experiences shaped your creative voice?
Yeah. When I grew up in a house with no art. There was no culture, there was no anything. So the first time I was really exposed to any art was, if you're stopped at a train, waiting for a train to go by, you're sitting in a car and you see train cars go by, you see the graffiti and you see the bright colors and you see the lettering. And I mean, if you look at my stuff, you can see how heavily influenced I am by lettering and colors and everything else. So I didn't know that was art, like that was considered art. And the same thing with when you're taught in school, any art class, they'll talk about Van Gogh or Vermeer or any of the masters, and none of that stuff appealed to me. That was all just boring. It was just not exciting. And when I think it was high school, our library, in the art section, there was all these master's books, but they had two books. They had a book on Jean-Michel Basquiat and Keith Haring. Mm-hmm. And I looked at that and it blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, this is art too? This is fine art? This is what, this counts? I could do this. It excited me. So I was like, between my love of lettering, later, I found out I was dyslexic, but not until college. But I always loved fonts and letterings and that kind of thing, and pop culture. I was a very pop culture junkie, cartoon kid. Mm-hmm. So that was really my influence. That's what got me excited about art, and that's how I was really introduced into art. Because again, nothing in my house, no poetry, no reading. It's funny because my house now is filled with music and poetry and art and everything. And growing up, we were void of all that. It was just a very blue collar construction coal miner house, and there was just nothing there. So I didn't know. And if you don't know, you don't know. And this is pre-internet, so it wasn't like, if it wasn't at the library, it didn't exist to me. Like if somebody didn't show it to you, put it right in your face, you didn't see it. Mm-hmm. And we never did. And my wife, when she was younger, she got to go to the Art Institute. My family never went to the Art Institute. We never had galleries. Where I grew up, there was no art galleries. So it was, so that was, seeing those train cars go by, seeing driving someplace and seeing the underpass with graffiti on it. I was like, wow, that's cool. And it also, my dad hated it. Oh, look at these vandals, blah, blah. And I'm like, anything my dad hated, I tend to like. So
how is that, it leads into the second question. How does it so you went to art school, traditional. Yes. So with the blue collar upbringing and then with art school, how was that experience for you? And were you rebellious in school because it's like they tell you what to do, or how did that go?
Well, art school was great for me because so many different cultures came to, this was a very white area that I grew up in. I went to art school in Miami, and there was just all different cultures and all different people, and I was excited by everybody brought their own background that I was never exposed to at all, so it was exciting. And as far as the art teachers go, the art school I went to was not good. It doesn't exist anymore. It failed. It closed. And so many of the teachers there just wanted a paycheck and they would do their own work. They weren't really super interested in teaching art. But I had one great teacher that kind of took me under his wings and he literally saw through me like I was a dirty window. He knew, soon as he saw me the first day. A quick story about that is, it was a painting class. First time I ever had him. His name is Gary Tepper. went into his class, and he wrote his syllabus on the wall. These are the paintings I want from you this semester. You know, and everybody was writing them down. And at the end of the class, he's like, Gabriel, come here. He's like, forget all that. And he takes out a piece of paper and he writes down a bunch of stuff. And they were books. And I'm like, this is a painting class. He goes, you're going to read one of these books every week, and we're going to meet for coffee, and we're going to talk about this. I was totally like, what am I doing? And he goes, a painter who doesn't have knowledge is like a gun without bullets. It's useless. So he made me, and I told him, I said, you know, and I didn't, even at that point, because it was early on, I didn't know I was dyslexic. So reading, and it was Moby Dick. It was Christmas. It was like hardcore, traditional, hard to read books. But I didn't have to do a painting for him, because he goes, I could teach a monkey to paint. He goes, you have to find your own. And he picked me out and went, you're my guy for this. And then like for the time I was in art school, I was known as his guy. And he was kind of a rebel as a teacher too, but I got some great other stories as we go on.
So how did the books then influence you with the art?
Yeah.
It expanded my mind knowing there's more culture out there than just, because I was struggling, like I was doing paintings, but the thing is with paintings, you need the inspiration. You need stuff to come in. If you're a better rounded person, you're a better painter or an artist or creator or whatever you are, in my opinion. And he knew that I had limited culture background. And I never spoke a word to him. He just looked at me and went, you. And I'm like, what'd I do? But he just knew that, like, and from what I understand, he would pick some students every year and just come on in. And he would pick students every year that, like, you're my guy for the next 2 years, or you're my girl, or whatever. So that's how it just expanded my culture and it made me a better person.
Well, and art, it has like an element of storytelling in general. So I feel like reading those books.
Yeah, and it turns out my stuff is all storytelling now.
Yeah.
You know, and it was probably influenced by that inadvertently. It was nothing that I ever started out doing, but it's what I ended up doing.
Yeah.
You know, it was just put in that way.
Well, that goes really well into a little bit of the story of this collection. So if you want to dive in a little bit in that one,
sure.
What the collection is about.
Sure. Every year, I'm a big evolution person. You need to keep evolving as an artist. You can't stay the same. You can't keep doing. I have somebody that I know that has painted for 40 years, and you can't tell if she did this week or 40 years ago. There's no evolution. Great, she's great, but there's no evolution. So when I started painting again, I would paint throughout the year, and then in January, in February, I would just take all the stuff that I did the previous year and put it aside and try new stuff for like 2 months. Because realistically, nobody was buying art in January because it was right after Christmas. Nobody had any money. So I'm like, I'm just going to experiment. And I made so many haters. People like, I lost followers on Instagram because they're like, we like the stuff you did last year. Go back to that. Go back to that. And I'm like, it's not the way I work. So last year I was doing tons of hip hop portraitures. A couple of years ago was the 50th anniversary of hip hop. Gallery in Philadelphia had me do a bunch of hip hop portraits, and it was I got a lot of press from it. I was down at the Indianapolis Library. My stuff showed there because they did a celebration on the 50th anniversary of hip hop, and because of how old I am, I was I loved that music when it came out. I was like so. January, I was looking for a different way to paint, and I was so tired of, like, I got to a point where somebody go, oh, I want this artist or this artist, and I was like, okay, I'll sit down and paint that. But I got competent. I was never great, but I got competent enough, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, I just sat, and I'm like, I want to tell what's me? I was trying to think, how could I tell my own story? So I was looking at other artists. I was looking at, and I also I love murals. I don't paint murals, but I love murals, and my graphic design background. I was like, how can I tell a better story? And I kind of so all this stuff that you see here happened in a year. And it about halfway through, I started realizing, oh, this is my life. I'm painting my life.
Oh, so you didn't have a plan?
I didn't have a plan to paint my life. I was just trying to evolve my style.
Oh, okay.
I was just trying to come up with something that excited me to paint, because I paint every night.
That's why you changed the name on it too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was because she was saying, because I had a name for this show, and I can't even remember the name, but it was essentially a word for doing something is wrong, but you still do it. It was cognitive dissonance, I believe it is. And that seemed like that fit me. It's kind of like people going to Taco Bell. You go there, it's not good, but you still go there. And I used to do a lot of stuff that I knew was bad for me, and I still did it anyway. But then as this evolved, I'm like, no, this is beyond this. I was telling the story of my life. And, I was very afraid of being, because I'm new in the field. I'm an old person, but I'm new in the field. I'm like, you're making a retrospective here, and you're kind of up your own ass, because you haven't been around long enough to really do that properly. But I was like, no, it just kind of fell into place. And then when I talked to you, we kind of connected about the show. And then when you told me the gallery's kind of in 3 sections, I'm like, holy crap. And then my wife was like, it's the Sphinx riddle. Crawl, walk. I was like, so it was like, you told me about this, my wife told me about it, and I'm like, it serendipitously all kind of this all makes sense now.
Yeah, so expand on that, what each room stands.
Each room is, the first room, when you walk in, I wanted you to see me as a child. These are the paintings that represent me as a kid. The sneaker shoes, how bad I wanted to get into sneakers, and we didn't have money for it. And how being dyslexic, but the Dr. Seuss piece really helped me get through a lot of stuff. In cartoons, I was raised by alcoholic parents, I was left alone in front of the TV a lot. So this front room is me as a younger person. Now the room we're sitting in is me as a 18 to, I would say, 29-year-old. And it's a lot of trying to figure out what it is to be a man, and the masculinity side, and being invincible in my eyes. The saying, if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. If you're feeling froggy, you better jump. It's a lot of aggression, male things. And then this last room is me being a father, me being a husband, me having responsibilities in a home, and working and having all these responsibilities, knowing that I have a wife who has a disability, and I have a daughter who has a disability, and there's a lot of things riding on that, and there's a lot of pressures, and this kind of explained it. But the one thing, as I was doing all these pieces, it's very personal to me, but they're also, I'm not the only one going through all this. This is very common themes that many people, it definitely skews more male, especially in this room, but it's very common themes that kind of work together. So, and at the very beginning, when I started this, it was not the grand plan. It really evolved into this, and just everything made sense. It just I kind of followed it. It's I'm a science fiction nerd, so it's like the Force. It doesn't obey your command, but I just kind of followed it. I was just somebody was guiding me, God, whoever you want to believe in, but I was guided into this path of, oh, this is the right thing to do. Even though if I try to stray away with that first name, it was no, that doesn't work, go back to this. I would like to take credit. I would love to sit here and say, thought all this up, knew all this before I started, I'm a genius. but it didn't work that way. It was
I mean,
like,
you kind of did, just you didn't know yet.
yeah, I didn't know. I mean, it's just like, but it is kind of cool that when I started to stray away, or I was like, something brought me back to go, no, this is what this body of work is. One thing young artists don't understand, and it took me a long time to understand it, was try to get into galleries right away. And they're like, here's my piece, or here's like 3 pieces. And oh, these are really dope and people love these 3 pieces. They're like, yeah, that's cool. Do you have a body of work? Because if somebody wants to, like, if a gallery is going to invest their time in you, you just can't be Mr. 3-4 pieces. You have to have a body of work. They're investing their time and effort into you, so you have to be around next year. You have to, like, be somebody with potential. You need to have this ability to create a body of work, because a show is not.
You have to show your story. Like,
Yeah.
people don't want to. It's not just about your art. With your art, especially, people can relate. I can relate to. Well, here I am, because I was right there. I put the DVD into the, and I was exactly with that TV. That was me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
The same thing. I mean, with all the stories. So that's the thing, right? You have to have you, and not just a painting. Like,
Right. And it took, because I talk to young artists all the time, and through Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and it's funny, everybody wants to know the secret sauce. Like, how'd you get so many followers? Or how'd you get into galleries? I'm like, dog, there's no shortcuts. There are a few lightning strikes where people get discovered. But I knew I wasn't that person. I knew I wasn't that good, but I could tell you, because of my blue collar background, you're not gonna outwork me. I take that in every part of my life. I'm not naturally skilled at anything, but I tell you what, you ain't gonna outwork me. I will keep creating, and I'll keep evolving, and I'll keep getting better. And that would be my secret power of, I won't get outworked. Because like I said, I paint every night. I see people, they're like, I had this one kid came up to me and he's like, here are my paintings, and he had like 15 paintings. And this was a long time ago. He's like, and he showed me, because back in the day, I'm old again, you would look at slides. That's how you sent your work to galleries. You would send slides in. And he showed me, like, here's my thing of slides. He's like, do you have that? I go, yeah, I have that. He goes, well, bring your slides in. I want to take a look. And I had a 3-ring binder that was 3 inches deep. I'm like, here's like 300 pieces that I've done. And I'm like, and not everybody does that. I'm very prolific. I work very fast. But my point is, I work very hard, and I'm always trying to challenge myself. I have a great person in my life, 2 great people in my life that push me and support me, and that really helps. And I've got my daughter who is she's going to get her master's as an art teacher, and it really helps because she's the why person. She's autistic, so whenever even a line, why'd you put that line in there? And it goes back to the intention of marks on the page. There's a famous artist that we watched, Tyshan Schoenberg. He's got a British TV show called Great Portrait Painter. And he's one of the judges on it. And he's an amazing painter, and he talks about the intentions of marks. Like, everything needs to be put in for a reason. And I was like more free flowing, and then as an adult, I got like, no, the intention, it means something. Why is this mark here versus that? Because you could, composition and everything else, you could screw something up or make it look great.
And I think that's a lot of young people do wrong too. They want to get fast to a point where the piece looks good, but they don't experiment around or change up stuff. And
people should not have a style when they're in their 20s. They should not have a dedicated style. Like, I've seen people, it's like, this is my dog, the way I paint in my 20s is nothing like this. And it's just, you need to evolve, but they want to, they're missing a step. It's that dedication and hard work. I know a few artists, and they're adults, that they want to be famous. And that's the difference. Because you can be, through social media, you can become a famous artist. That was never my intention, never my goal. But that is something that young artists, it's that instant gratification, because, you know, Instagram, you can look how many followers somebody has and how many clicks. So they want that instant gratification. And I don't crave that. That's not what I'm about. I'm not looking to be famous.
So what do you crave in your art then? Like, what keeps you going like you go, except of course your family, but what is it, what makes you take with that? I
have so many ideas in my head that I can't stop. You got to remember, I didn't paint for 20 years. So I have a 20-year backlog in my brain. So when I'm done with one painting, I know what my next painting is going to be. I don't sit around if I work on something more than 3 nights, I'm already thinking about the next painting. I have to get something done because my mind will start drifting. And so I just have so many ideas in my head that
Do you only have them in your head, or you write them down, or you have like a
mainly
practice?
in my head, believe it or not. I had a list for a while, and then I never went back to the list. But mainly in my head, like I will, it's like chess. I'm like 3 moves ahead. I know what my next 3 paintings are going to be. I don't have to like sit around. As soon as I get done with one, I know what the next one is, and I start it. It's like my sessions are from 10 o'clock at night to about 3 o'clock in the morning. If I get done with something at like midnight, I won't go, well, that's it. I'll start the next painting because I know where I'm going. I'll just pull out the next canvas, you know, and start on that. So I'm not worried about running out of ideas because I had that gap. Maybe if I was this prolific that long, but I haven't gotten to that point yet. So
but what does art do for you then when you do it? Is it just that you just have to do it? Is there something what gives to get it?
It's in my head that I have to get out. I have to get this idea out. Once I get this idea out, it's like, okay, that's done. And now I'll work on the next thing. But it's not, some artists treat every painting like a precious baby. I treat it like it's a disease that I'm trying to get out of my head. It's like, I have to get this idea out. I have to get this done. And then I'll move on to the next one.
It's therapeutic in a way.
It is. I'm very careful about, people talk about painting as my therapy, and I'm a big advocate of therapy. I go to a therapist. Therapy is therapy. Painting helps, but painting is not therapy. Painting might make you feel good, but therapy is therapy. I've been in therapy for years, and thanks to my wife and my daughter. But yeah, it's therapeutic, but it's just, I have to get this idea out of it's an itch I have to scratch. I have to get
So if you don't do it, do you have like chaos in your head?
I have not painted in a week and it's driving me nuts.
Yeah. Well, we have cameras. We can give it. I have a studio right down the road. I can get you in there.
I forgot that one piece that I wanted everyone to sign, and I was thrilled that I got to redo that in the hotel room.
I told you could have come to the studio. You could have knocked yourself out.
And also leading up to this show, because of how I paint. Like, I paint a piece, get it done, put it away. There's more to that. You have to paint your edges out. You have to wire it. You have to sign it. You have to photograph it. Well, I'm not awesome about that. So I had all these paintings, so I had to paint the edges out, wire, and it takes a minute to wire 27 pieces, whatever it is. So leading up to the show, I didn't do a lot of new work. And then this last week, and I'm shaking because it's like, I can't wait to get back. And I know what I'm doing. As soon as I get back in the studio, I have an idea. I know what I'm painting.
So you need an assistant to help you do all the other stuff.
An assistant? Where's the camera? An assistant would be awesome. Anyone want to volunteer your time? But the thing is, because of where I paint in my basement, because of especially how late I paint, I don't want to have a studio and then at 3 o'clock in the morning driving home. And I live in Chicago. 3 o'clock in the morning, it could be a snowstorm. It's nice to be done with your work and then just climb the stairs and I'm back in my house.
So do you have days where you don't work on your paintings with family? Like, how do you manage family life?
My family has to sleep and I don't. My family sleeps at about 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Everybody's ready for bed. So when they go to sleep, I paint because they don't need me then because they're sleeping. So I paint every night. The rarest occasion something will happen in the house, but I would say super rare. I would say 99% of the time it's 10 o'clock. I hear my wife or my daughter's currently living with us before she goes away to get her master's. They'll be like, oh yeah, I'm getting tired, it's bedtime. I'm like, nope, I get to go to work. So yeah, it's always forever. It's not a day off. It's Christmas, it's New Year's Eve. I think we stayed up till the ball dropped and you went to bed and then I went down to work for a few hours.
Is he grumpy in the mornings?
I'm not good in the morning. I am not. But the thing is, neither is my wife, so it's awesome. It's not like
Big can of coffee.
we are not morning people. We say goodbye to each other. She goes off to work, but definitely not a morning person. But I wasn't a morning person before I painted. I like the night. It's solitude. I'm Batman. I work at night. When I wrote I am vengeance, I am the night, I'm like, I am the night.
Yeah.
I could, in a perfect world, I'd get up every day at noon, 1 o'clock, do whatever I need to and go in the studio and like just work from 8 until but it's where I am the most productive. If I take a day off to go, I'm just going to take a day off of work and I'm just going to go in the studio, I'm going to paint all day. Inevitably, stuff comes up and I never get to start painting until later anyway. Whatever it is, so it's like, why do I even bother taking a day off to paint? Because something comes up or somebody needs me or something needs to be done around the house or my daughter needs this, my wife needs, whatever it is, it's nobody's fault. It's just inevitability that I don't get down, so I don't do it anymore. I just wait until...
It's probably the routine too. If you have your routine, you go. It's like, you go in and you have your time and it's your time. It's probably that too, right? I mean, I have that. If I'm not in the routine, then...
Yeah, very much so. It's just, and it's super comfortable. And people are like, how do you do that? Oh, I could never do that. I'm like, this is my opportunity. That's my window. And either I use that window for painting. I don't play video games. I don't watch a lot of TV. I mean, like during family time, maybe we'll watch some videos, we'll watch TV. Me and my wife do the New York Times crossword puzzle every night. But after that, it's like I said, I'm not a video games junkie. I don't drink. I haven't drank. I'm sober for 22 years. Never taken drugs. I've made in my life, I don't have distractions intentionally. So I enjoy my work in the morning. I love my family, enjoy that. I cook, I clean, I do everything. And then at night I do that. And then I sleep a little bit less than some people. But if you want something, that's what you do. You have to grind. My daughter hates that because we talk about the grind, because a lot of my friends, like some other close artists, are like, yeah, dog, you got to put the work in. You got to clock in. And I have a very blue collar, like, I'm clocking in, I'm going to work. This is my time to create.
I'm curious to know, because you were talking about people's style evolving. Mm-hmm. So how did you evolve to this, like, collage cartoon style with text? And maybe you could talk more about your graphic design background a little bit.
Sure. I was looking for, like I said, it was end of December. I just finished a painting that broke me because I was doing portraitures and likenesses are very tough to get a likeness. And I was doing a piece and I was struggling with the likeness and my wife was coming down. I'm like, help me, what am I doing wrong? And she's like, do this. I did that and it still wasn't right. This piece broke me. And I'm like, I don't want to do portraits anymore. This is a struggle. It's not fun. I don't like this. And then I was like, well, what can I do? And I was looking through Instagram at different artists. There is a famous, I was telling you about this yesterday. There's a famous he was a comedian in the 70s. His name is Martin Mull. He did a show, Fernwood Tonight. He's been on Roseanne, things like that. But he's also a painter. And what he would do is he would go to like garage sales and buy up old photo albums of people, like strangers, just photo albums, build these collages, and then paint the collages, and that was the final art. And I always loved this stuff, and I was like, that's an interesting thing. I like the collage, but I don't want to cut out paper and and there's a lot of great collage artists. Believe me, I'm telling a story. My stuff is not, other people paint like this. It's not uncommon. There's, Terry Urban, and there's a lot of great people that paint like this. And when I started, I saw Terry Urban's work. I was like, oh, between Martin Mull and Terry Urban. And then I got introduced to Takashi Murakami, and it was just like, if those of you who don't know, Takashi Murakami, he's known as the Andy Warhol of Japan. Most people know him from his sunflowers, multicolored sunflowers, but his character work is amazing. His characters, he's mind-blowing. And I also like his career, like he worked with Kanye West, he worked with Billie Eilish, and I was like, oh, his style is called super flat. And it was just like, when I saw his stuff, it just clicked. I'm like, collage, super flat, like it just made so much sense. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And I did one, the dinosaur piece. It was a self-portrait, because every year I stop. There's certain things I do. I'll do a self-portrait every year. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, my first piece was, how do I do a self-portrait in this new style? And because of my age, I did a dinosaur, because I just feel old sometimes. And I did a dinosaur, and I told a story around it, and I used logos and type. I was like, I'm liking this. And then I did another piece, and it wasn't, there's a piece in the show, the Americana piece. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, this is it. I figured it out. I cracked the code. I say crack the code, that's me saying I figured it out. So I cracked the code on it, and then it was the evolution from within that. But it was the combination of looking at what people did before me, but not copying them, being influenced by them. And there's a big difference. There's a lot of people out there right now that are painting like Jean-Michel Basquiat. It drives me batty, because it's like young white kids painting like Michel Basquiat, and I'm like, cultural appropriate, like there's like 100 things wrong with that right off the bat. And I was like, so it's great to be influenced, because all artists influence each other. It's great to be influenced, but like to copy exact, like Jean-Michel used this one book of symbols, and you could tell all these kids saw that documentary and went out and got that book and did this copy. I was like, yeah, I get it, the crown, we get it, but that was Samo, that was his stuff. It's fine if you're like using it as a stepping stone, but you have to evolve into your own style. And so many people just go, and the thing is, people in the market go, oh, that's dope. Well, you like it because it's a Basquiat. That's like buying a fake Birkin bag. It's like, oh, I like this, I'm gonna buy it. But wait a minute, Birkin design, that's their thing. I don't know. So there are people that are really famous on Instagram that sell a lot, but they are just straight up copying other artists. I try, and I'm not saying I'm like totally free from that. When I started, like again, Terry Urban influenced me, a lot of people influenced me, but I try to then evolve it into my own feeling. And like I said early on, but it was more, ooh, I like that. You're saying
you're not building your career on it. You're doing, like, take the influence, work in that direction, but then put your own style into it. You have to put your own spin on it. You cannot just do always the same just because you're selling.
Right. There is, like with my work, I have a palette that I'm comfortable with. Because, you want to be able to look at a body of work and go, oh, the same person did all this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They can't all be the same painting, but it's got to be the same vibe. And I'll use a very similar color palette in all this stuff, in different variations. I love, because I was a big comic book kid, you'll see a lot of heavily outlined, thick black, because I just love that. But yeah, you have to put a personal spin on everything. You have to evolve. You have to find the way to take something, because you got to remember, it's a canvas and it's paint, and people have been doing it for thousands of years. You have to find your own personal spin on it that makes your stuff you, and not worry about, oh, this is hot right now, I'm gonna try to sell. That's a problem that some artists have, that I want to be famous, I want to be, and I'm like, that was never my goal. I want to paint, get the work out there, that kind of stuff. I'm not worried about the money, I'm not worried about the fame, I'm not worried about any of this. I just want to get my work out, and I'm lucky enough now to share it with people through the galleries.
So walk us through from the idea to the final image. How much is spontaneous and planned out?
Usually the idea, it'll come to me, and generally it starts with a saying, a word. I'm trying to look at the Frankenstein piece I'm pointing, if nobody could see it. It's the Frankenstein piece, and it's I am man made, and it's crossed off made, so it says I am man. That came in my head, and I was like, okay, that's a Frankenstein piece. And then I start thinking about the idea. Then the idea dictates the canvas size, and then I use Photoshop to sketch stuff out, so I have a pretty good concept of what it's going to be. And then I go in the studio and I paint it. Usually, there'll be variations when I paint based on, my biggest problem is editing, because I have so many things that I want to put in it. It's very difficult to pull stuff out when I'm like, oh, I need to put this in and that in and this, it's just, I look around, and the stuff that I look at, I'm like, I should have edited that more. I should have been able to simplify the idea down more. But that's what I struggle with.
And I have a question, because you said you have the idea and then you dictate the size. So there's a couple of pieces I see, basically with the Chrisley, where I think that would be great big too. Why was that smaller than the Frankenstein, for example? How do you distinguish between the sizes?
That's a good question.
When it comes in to my head as to, and sometimes I get it wrong. I have done a painting, it'll come in my head, and I did it 16 by 20. There's a piece in the other room. It's the show title. And it came into my head as a size, and I painted it, and it wasn't right. So I'm not right all the time. It's just more of a feeling that I'm because I see the painting done in my head before I do anything. And I see it as either smaller, 12 by 12. I've got certain sizes I try to stay uniform with. I've got 4 or 5 different sizes I do. I'm it's just visually, it's just something in my head that clicks. It's oh, it should be this size. I'll do skateboard decks, and the reason why I love skateboard decks is because they're extremely vertical. There's the way you have to crop thing, and I really dig the fact that you could crop stuff weird because it is so horizontal. So
it's kind of an intuition thing.
Yeah, it kind of is. I don't have a scientific reason why. It's just in my head, I see something as this size. So that's it.
Yeah. Did your mediums change at all? You've always used acrylic.
I've tried to experiment with different mediums, and oil, the way I work, oil just takes so long to dry. And I also can't get the vibrant colors with oil. I know some people could do it. I just don't have that skill, and I didn't want to dedicate enough time to learn that skill.
Yeah.
But I love bright colors. I love the bright pinks. I love, all that. So it's just that. It's I've tried doing other stuff. I've tried doing watercolors. I tried doing oils, but it's just, this is what I landed on. It feels so comfortable to me. because it's also a less of a distraction. And there was a couple times where I tried doing more 3D stuff or different mediums but when like I said, when I ran into Murakami stuff and I saw the super flat, that just clicked with me. But I was doing a more impressionistic background on some of the stuff, and some of the portraits I was doing were very like thick brushstroke, because I love Van Gogh. Van Gogh's a favorite artist, and I was trying to put a lot of heavy brushstrokes in, and I used to paint that way. It's an evolution away from that.
Yeah. Another question I have is, since there's like a lot of strong pop culture references in your art, is there any like specific figures or moments from pop culture that have like been the biggest influence on your work?
It's usually, like I said, I come up with the idea, and there's usually a hero image in each piece.
Yeah.
And when I come up with the idea, I like try to think what is like the one thing that I could pick to represent that idea the best. The pop culture stuff, I mean, I don't have moments in time like 9/11 or just kind of any like one individual time in my life. It's generally the idea, but it's I don't do like exact moments. It's more of like, oh, this is how I was feeling. And a lot of this stuff I painted, you got to remember, I painted this year, and it was about my childhood. So my memory, it wasn't like an exact time, but I just remember, ooh, this was a flash in my memory of like sitting in front of the TV a lot, or I could tell you, like the sneakerhead thing was about Nike started selling the Nike Cortez. And they sold them at Kmart, and you could get them for $20. And my mom would never buy it for me because you could get Kmart brand shoes for $10, and she didn't want to waste money. And I got a job, and I saved. And I remember buying my first pair. So it's not like an exact moment in time, but it's more of a feeling.
Yeah.
A lot of my stuff is just about how I felt. I was never literally a cowboy, but there was just a feeling, a Western feeling I had at the time, and that's where some of the Western pieces came from. And like I said, I'm glad they sold to the same person, because they were an inadvertent set. I did the cowboy piece, and it sat in the studio for a long time, and I was like, I couldn't figure out why it wasn't right. And I was like, do I need to repaint that? I'm like, what's the deal? And then I realized, oh, it needs another piece to it. So that's when I did the cowgirl piece. So, and some of the stuff, like I said, I'll paint, it'll sit in my studio, and then I'm like, I'll feel that it's not right or not complete or not done. I didn't convey my message well. So sometimes I'll do a companion piece with it, or sometimes I'll repaint it, or, whatever.
You've said, I don't paint to sell paintings. I paint to express my ideas, and people buy my ideas, and they get my paintings for free. Can you expand on that philosophy?
First of all, I don't want to like be up my own ass. I love selling paintings. Don't get me wrong, but money's nice. Everybody likes money, and it's a feel good. But it's the story of, I'm in a basement by myself, coming up with these ideas and like creating, and I'm like, there is that insecure moment of, am I the only one getting this? Am I up my own ass too much? And it's just like,
oh, the artist, like, yes.
Exactly. I mean, it's a very common thing. So it's nice when like I'll post something on social media, and I'll get a bunch of good, positive comments. And I've been lucky. I've got, people have been very, very, very kind to me on social media and supportive to me on social media. And I've made a lot of good friends via social media. And that's like, oh, okay, people get this, and then the next level is bringing it to a gallery and selling it, but yeah, I don't want to sound like, I'm this, I do like selling paintings. But it is the idea. I mean, if you buy the idea, if you like this, yeah, you get the painting for free. That's the idea. In my mind, it justifies, it's like, oh, you get what I'm trying to say. Because, putting, especially in this day and age, pulling out your credit card and buying something, I mean, tough economic times and everything else, it's really got to mean something to somebody for them to buy it. And it's not the money, don't get me wrong, money's great, but it's the vindication of, what I'm doing makes sense. Because as an artist, at least I am, there's some artists out there that aren't, but I'm very insecure when it comes to the stuff. I'm doing this for me, but I want it also to be received. I'm like, I don't want to do, like, there's a couple ideas that I've done that would never get shown because this is 100% for me. Nobody's going to get this. It's not a universal thing. It's like a moment exactly in my life, which is, so I try to stick to things that happen in my life, but universal themes. So again, and I'm not original with the idea of you buy the idea, you get the art for free. Everybody should be like that. I just say it,
That's kind of beautiful. I like it.
But again, I'm very careful because my family's very quick to call me out on, I'm not a philosopher. I'm not, it's just, I am who I am, and I don't want to pretend I'm somebody else. And it's just, sometimes I'm really insecure. Sometimes this stuff is too personal. But the idea, it's great when you have an idea in your head and you could get it out and somebody enjoys it.
And it makes someone else feel a certain way or resonates enough.
I mean, 100%, because it's like, I think that people that don't create and still appreciate art, it's great that like non-artists, don't get me wrong, I love it when artists buy my work, but I also like it when non-artists, because I think that's a tougher barrier, because I am not a couch painter. Like, you don't buy my stuff because it goes with your living room. Some people are like that. Some people could do wonderful abstracts, and somebody comes in and goes, well, that brown goes with my couch, I'll just buy it, I don't care. None of my stuff ever fits in that. You don't accidentally buy my stuff, So.
You said something about how your paintings, you think of them as like murals or street art that you can take home and hang on your wall?
Yeah, I'm not a muralist, but because of my graphic design background, I was a graphic designer for years, and magazine covers and posters are so important. And like a mural is great, but you want something to hang in your house. You want to bring it home. And I always treat my stuff as if it could be a mural, as if it could be on a wall somewhere. And it's just, you could take this stuff home with you because it's similar colors, similar bright colors, themes are similar. It's just, you get to take it home with you.
So how do you feel about like the divide between street art and then like gallery art today?
Well, as somebody on the street art, pop art, graffiti art, first of all, graffiti and street art, two different things. People don't understand. Graffiti is tagging your name, it's vandalism, it's illegal. Technically, we don't support it because it's illegal, but street art is different. Street art is, you are allowed to paint on this, somebody gave you this space to paint a mural, whatever. But traditionally, we have been looked down on. We are not the fine artists. There's hierarchies of, when you look at super fine artists, when you look at top end galleries, there's a certain look and vibe and feel, and this ain't it, or rarely is it. So we have, to gain acceptance is tougher for us. There's certain galleries that will not carry street art, or, there's a lot of financial reasons. There's no market for it. There's this, that, whatever. So
I think that people are just scared of it. I think there's a huge market for it. It's just people are scared from getting away from the old. That's what I think.
Well, yeah, and it's true, but you've got to remember, I also understand it's a business.
Oh, yeah.
And, if you own a gallery, your job is to sell what's on the wall, and you know what your demographics of your area is, you know what your market is, you know what will sell, that's what you want to carry. That's one philosophy in it. Everybody has a different structure. Some galleries are more experimental, and they're like, we want a whole bunch of like this gallery Chimera. Every show has been completely different. It's been different vibe. The consistent is the vibe is cool, fresh, younger artists bringing their vision to life. That's the one consistency. But all the shows have been completely different, and those are the people that like are more receptive to the type of stuff that I do, and those are the galleries I like working with. I've told this story before. I got to be very careful not to say names, but worked with a gallery. They loved me. They loved my vibe. They loved that I could talk. All this. They just didn't like the way I painted, and because they're like, you're like I could make you rich, just paint differently, and I could sell it because you're great to have at a show. You're not like, I'm not the quiet artist. I'm not like, I'm outgoing. I'll talk to you about art, all this. I'm heavy in social media. But for street artists or people of pop artists and stuff like that, it's always been a little different. Even pop art galleries will shy away from more street art. It is what it is.
What do you suggest then for younger, you're like a little bit older season and like,
I'm old.
and you have a little bit more power behind you to stand for what you are. What do you suggest for younger artists who want to break into that and work with galleries or get the foot in? Like, what do you suggest they should do?
Well, I mean, getting a foot in with a gallery, here's what I tell everybody. Don't try to jam yourself into a gallery where you don't fit. If they don't carry your stuff and there's no history of them carrying your kind of work, you could reach out because maybe they are looking to do something different, but more than likely they know their market. Try to go into galleries that are either more when you're starting out, more experimental, or they're willing, look at the shows they've had. Do they have different shows? Could your work be shown in there? That's one. Two, don't be in a big ass hurry to get in a show because you don't have a body of work. They're going to look at it and go, you don't have enough. And it's not, and there's a big difference of you're not good enough versus you don't have enough. You're finding you're finding your footing. Do more work, create more, have this body of work, and then go to a gallery. I always suggest to people find group shows. When I started, there's there's a lot of open call for artists. Try to get into a group show, see if there's a market for your stuff. But also try to develop a relationship with a gallery. Support the gallery. Go to their shows. Support them on social media. I mean, that's another big thing that I tell young artists. It's it's not all about you, dog. If you look at my story, I mean, I've been promoting this show a lot just because it's mine. But normally in my stories, if I see somebody on Instagram that I like, I might not even know them. I'm like, I'll throw it up in my stories. I'm like, and tag the artist. I'm like, check this person out. They're dope. And, try to have a relationship. There was one gallery that I wanted to get in for the longest time. It's in Chicago, not too far from me, and they carry emerging artists, more street art, more unique, but all high quality. True Born Gallery. Sarah's the best. I wanted to get in there for the longest time, and I sent them my work. Nothing. Very nice, not just. I wasn't, and then last year she saw some stuff that I did, but I followed her stuff. Whenever she had a show, I would throw it up. I'm like, hey, everybody, check out this show. I was try to be very supportive. I'm very supportive of other artists. I'm very supportive of galleries. And you try to, it's like kind of any other business. You want to build a relationship with someone. You want to know that you're genuine. I'm here to support, even though I'm not in your show. And, it just lightning struck. I did every Halloween, since I'm such a Halloween freak, I'll do a Halloween series, 5 or 6 paintings of Halloween stuff. And it sells out every year. It was fun. And just out of the blue, she hit me up, the gallery hit me up and said, hey, if you get more of this Halloween stuff, I'd like to carry it in my gallery. I'm like, I don't, but give me a week and I will. And I banged it out, and I went down there and I dropped it off, and I gave her 4 pieces. And what was it? By the end of that, I think I dropped it off on Friday, and by Sunday, 3 of them had sold. And then just when I dropped the pieces off, I was talking to her, and she's like, hey, not for nothing, I've got this other show. Could you do a piece for this other show? I'm like, of course I will, because I want to be part of this gallery and whatever it takes. And she told me what it was, and she's like, it happened again. Like, my piece sold before the show opened. So it was like, so she, every time she has a group show, she's like, she's doing a group show May 17th that I'm in. So it's like, it's developing a relationship, showing people that you're willing to do stuff, but it's the caliber of work too. I mean, you've got to be, your work has got to be of a certain caliber.
Because you reached out to a lot of galleries and work with a lot of them now to get your work out. Do you have any tips for galleries, how they can help your style in your genre? Like, what do you think? Is there something?
I would never presume of running a gallery, and this is from somebody who's never running a gallery, but I've worked at art galleries before. That is such a hard job. I would never want to own an art gallery in my life. Mad respect for you. But the fact that I know it's such a tough thing, because you want to support artists, but you also got to keep the lights on, and you got to pay bills, and you got to pay staff, and you got to pay everybody. And I'm never upset at a gallery that rejects me, because could be a million reasons. Like, maybe they have work, like maybe they're like, well, we have somebody who does something like you. We don't want to compete with that person to take away from that. There's a million different reasons why you might not get into a gallery. And I know that galleries get inundated. What were you were saying that you turn away like 90% of the work or something?
Do you know?
Somebody was saying, I think Caleb was telling me, the other owner.
Well, here it's too, we are so small too, right? So and we don't want to have, sometimes when people see one style, then they want to, I want it. Like for us, we want to be different. We don't want to have every month the same. We want to be up to date, and then maybe next year, so it's a little bit different here with the but I mean, galleries get inundated, you're true.
Yeah, so I mean, galleries get hammered by people that are, in my consideration, aren't ready to be in gallery shows or to be in a solo show. They're not ready, but they get inundated. I remember when I worked at Martin Lawrence Gallery, several times a week, people would come in with their portfolios and asking our gallery director to review the stuff. She's like, this is a national chain. Our corporate office decides what art we carry, but people were just not. They just thought you could walk in and, like, number one, never walk in unannounced to a gallery, never bring your stuff unannounced, build a relationship, have a rapport, if they're, and follow their procedures. A lot of times on their websites, they'll have this is how you submit to this gallery. Do exactly what they ask. Even comes down to, like, labeling your pictures. We want to send, if they want them labeled a certain way, label it that way. But don't get hung up on the basics.